Who knew I could talk about pressing products for a long time? Watch, I have a lot of information to share with you about some of the big items and some of the small items that we carry here. Pressing is a big step in the sewing process, whether you're a garment sewer or a quilter. The pressing helps make things look more professionally done, and we have great gadgets and tools to make the pressing process a little bit easier and more precise for you. Garment sewers are probably very familiar with sleeve boards, which allow you to get smaller parts of a garment onto the board and press just that area without pressing the whole garment, as the rest of it can hang off the sleeve board. It's also very handy for quilters. If you've done strip piecing where you've sewn multiple strips together and you want to press the individual seams, I've often had to finagle and work on the edge of the ironing board, and I always end up ultimately pressing some of the other seams that I don't want to press. Well, with my stripped pieces, I can place them right on the sleeve board and just get to the seam that I want to press, slide it over, get to the next one, and it makes it a lot easier. So it's also a nice gadget for our quilters. Garment sewers also find it handy to have different devices that allow them to get into parts of the garment that might be a little bit dimensional. So we have seam rolls in stock, and we have the traditional tailor's ham that many of you may be familiar with, that's shaped to help you do things like princess seams. Those are on their way into the shop and should be arriving this week. When you press, there's a lot of times things that happen from the finish of the fabric. If the iron's a little bit too hot, your fabric might get a little bit shiny. So a good thing to have in your sewing space is the press cloths that help protect your fabric as well as protecting your iron. We have those in stock. Anybody that works with fusibles like Wonder Under will appreciate applique pressing sheets. These protect your iron. They will not allow this sticky adhesive to get onto your iron, and that saves you from having to clean your iron if you have a little mishap with the fusibles. Now we also carry Best Press. We have it in 2 sizes, and Best Press is an agent that's used when pressing, particularly with quilters, to help you get your seam allowances really nice and flat. And I know a lot of you quilters go through a lot of this as you're working. Now the smaller one comes with a nozzle that will spray, and I'm going to grab mine. I left it over here, and it looks like this. And it's kind of a spitter. So when you squirt this, it kind of comes out in kind of big droplets. So another product that we carry that you might choose to use instead of working with this little cheap plastic device is these great misters. We have them filled up with water and with Best Press in our classroom area, and this gives you a nice, light, even mist. So it's preferable for not only my Best Press, but also when I'm trying to spray something with water, I get better coverage with it. So we're really liking these bottles. And these bottles can be anchored to your ironing board with these really handy little clamps that very easily clamp onto the side of your ironing board and will hold your bottle, keeping your ironing board surface free. Now, sometimes we do have a mishap with the iron, and then we need to get into cleaning that iron. If you have a significant mess up, like you've put the iron down onto fusible interfacing the wrong side up, you got a real mess. The Dritz Iron Cleaner product is what we would recommend. It gives off a lot of smell and smoke. And I've had customers tell me that they've had the fire department at their home after using this because they didn't realize and they were right underneath a smoke detector. So I always recommend doing it actually outside. I'll go out on my deck and clean my iron outside because the fumes are pretty strong, but it does get the iron super, super, super clean. If your mess is not as significant, there also is a Press Perfect pen from Clover that I just use it kind of routinely on my iron because fabric finishes burn off a little bit here and there, and you'll notice over time that on the sole plate of your iron it might be just a little bit of marks, and I will use this to kind of do maintenance cleaning on my iron. There are also tools for helping you when you're pressing. This is a favorite of mine. It's a hot hammer, and it's a heat-resistant little piece that has all kinds of measurements on it. So if I need to turn up an inch for a casing for elastic or, you know, 1.5 inches for a hem, I can simply use this and my iron and the fabric and work my way around the project really quickly, and this will be fine when the iron is put on. It's heat resistant. It also has a curved edge in case you are doing pockets and trying to press that pocket curved corner and get it looking nice. Two other tools by Clover that I also use in pressing is, one is a stiletto. This stiletto is multi-purpose. I use it at the sewing machine. Sometimes I need to hold something down. A seam allowance is trying to flip in the wrong direction, so I'll flip it back. And I really don't want my fingers that close to the needle. I'll use the point of the stiletto, and it has a rubbery point to it, so it really grips. At the ironing station, it's handy because sometimes you need to hold a mitered corner down, and again, you don't want your fingers really close to the iron. This is heat resistant, and you can use this tool, keep your fingers safe, and get the precise pressing that you want. There are times when you may not want to get up to go to the ironing board, and keeping this tool by your machine, if you're piecing and you want to do a quick press on a seam, this roll and press gadget will flatten the seam out better than if you just try to finger press it. You're getting a little bit more leverage and weight down on it, and helps give you a really nice seam without having to get up and go to the ironing board. And then our star appearance today is a product that we started carrying this year, and we're loving the Laura Star iron. So what I have here is a little red steamer. We have it in red and in white, and this is going to be on special for Thanksgiving weekend for $4.99. Now, what is significant about this iron is the steaming power. It's a very hot, dry steam. I'm using it in quilting all the time now. With this, I actually am barely using Best Press. I don't really need an agent. This does the work that I used to rely on Best Press to do with my standard Rowenta iron. The water heats up in the container on the floor, and you've got a long hose. It sends steam through the hose up to this iron, and then you have steam coming out there. And I'm hitting it with the button, so I can use it as a dry iron, or I can be hitting the button as I'm ironing and getting steam. And I'm actually holding my hand here and not burning myself. And that's because it actually is a very, very dry steam, so it's not going to warp or distort your fabric, which is what sometimes happens with a regular steam iron where the steam is a little bit moist. Everything that we're showing you today is displayed on another product that's been very, very popular for us, and this is a mini pressing station. So this is a board, an ironing board, and it's on top of a cart that has 2 shelves for storage. So you can put a lot of stuff down there, iron here. I've even worked with my rotary cutter mat on top of this surface for a cutting station, and it's at a nice height for doing that. These are products that are made by a company called TNT Quilting Products, and I'm going to put a link in the comments to their website. You can view all of their products and place an order through us, and we will get them in time, hopefully for Christmas delivery. But they have some neat products that we're going to pause, and I'll set up and show you the additional products that they have. Some of the other products from TNT are a little square board that's handy to keep right next to your machine, and it's also available in a version that swivels, that rotates around. There is a small ironing board that actually has a handle, so if you need a small board to take to retreats or classes, or if you're living in a small space and just need to be able to pull out a small ironing surface, this one's really nice. There also is a bigger version with the handle built in and the legs for a tabletop ironing surface, and this one is a foldable table, so if you need to take it in and out, you want to put it away, but then get it out. And it also can double as a work surface. We've put machines on here and use it as an additional sewing table when we run out of space. When is an ironing board not just an ironing board? When it's a Laura Star ironing system. So this is another product from the same company as the little red steamer that I showed you in the previous clip. This is a whole ironing system, so it's the board, and it's the iron. So there's a tank underneath that is heating up the water, similar to the Little Red Steamer, but it's holding more water. And then the significant thing that happens with this real top of the line product is when I start ironing, there's a fan system in the ironing board that's actually blowing up the fabric. So I'm going to be able to press my, in this case, a quilt top much faster than if I were doing this on a regular ironing board and a standard iron. The fan is blowing it up, so it's opening up all the fibers of the fabric. I'm going over it once with the steam, and then I'm going to travel back again with the dry iron. So I just took my finger off the button. Now, what happens when you do something really large, if you're using a steam iron and there's a little bit of moisture still in the fabric, as you move it over to start ironing the next section, it's just getting re-wrinkled again. So when I move my quilt over the ironing board now, it's going to stay ironed because it's ironed with a really dry heat. The system can be easily shifted the other way with a press of the button on the tip of the iron here, and it's now going to suck down. So if I'm ironing clothing, something like a rayon blouse, silk blouse, that's slipping off the ironing board, it's going to actually grab it so it stays on the ironing board, and I can easily iron my item. The filter, the tank takes regular water. There's a filter in there that you replace occasionally. But for the girl that has everything, this is a great ironing system. If you go this path, you'll be as happy looking as Miss Susie looks in the picture here. Who's happy ironing? If you love ironing, this is a great toy to have.